10 smart ways to destroy your enemy without fighting them. There is a war that needs no battlefield, a conflict that rages not outside but within. It is not with swords or fists that you conquer your enemy. It is with a force far greater, a mastery of self that renders opposition powerless. The Stoics taught us that true power lies not in domination, but in transformation. Marcus Aurelius, the warrior emperor, wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. To destroy your enemy without raising a hand is to wield a strength they cannot comprehend. Control over yourself." Here are 10 ways to achieve this mastery, not for the sake of pride, but for the sake of freedom. 1. Overcome them by overcoming yourself. The first way to destroy your enemy is to master your emotions. Anger, hatred, and vengeance. They are chains we place on ourselves. Chains our enemies hope we wear, for they know that as long as we react to them, they control us. Epictetus, born a slave yet freer than most kings, warned us, "Anyone who angers you becomes your master." Your enemy thrives on your fury, feeds on your resentment. They want you to act without thinking, to spiral into chaos. But when you refuse to give them that power, you strip them of their hold over you. Imagine the one who wrongs you expecting an outburst, only to be met with calm indifference. They are disarmed, confused, weakened. In that moment you win, not by overpowering them, but by refusing to be overpowered by your own destructive emotions. The fight isn't external, it's within. By mastering yourself, you rob your enemy of the weapon they hope to use against you, your reaction. 2. Transform enmity into irrelevance. The second way to destroy your enemy is even more profound. Rise so high above them that they can no longer touch you. Seneca, the sage of Rome, reminded us, "A great mind is unperturbed by insult, as the great sun remains unharmed by mud." When we elevate our purpose, when we channel our energy into growth and virtue, our enemies shrink into insignificance. They become like shadows, fading as we step into the light of our higher selves. Do not waste your life plotting revenge or harboring grudges. That is to carry your enemy within you. Instead, focus on your own excellence. Build a life so strong, so resilient, that no insult, no attack can disturb your peace. The Stoics believed that the greatest victory is self-transcendence. When your enemy becomes irrelevant, when their actions no longer matter, you destroy them, not with hate, but with indifference. 3. Turn your enemy into your teacher. The third way to destroy your enemy without fighting them is to transform the way you perceive them. What if your enemy was not an obstacle, but a mirror? What if their actions, their hostility, were lessons in disguise, forcing you to refine yourself? Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." The actions of an enemy can be an opportunity for growth, an exercise in patience, resilience, and wisdom. Instead of responding with rage or bitterness, we can ask, "What is this enemy teaching me about myself?" Perhaps they challenge your pride, exposing your ego. Perhaps their cruelty tests your compassion. By seeing your enemy as a teacher, you shift the dynamic. They no longer control you. Instead, they serve your growth. When you extract wisdom from their hostility, you destroy their power over you. You take what they meant for harm and transform it into fuel for your own elevation. In doing so, you rise above the conflict, leaving them defeated by your ability to turn adversity into strength. The fourth way to destroy your enemy is by embodying the virtues they lack. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "To refrain from imitation is the best revenge. If your enemy is deceitful, be truthful. If they are cruel, be kind. If they sow division, create harmony." Virtue is not weakness. It is the ultimate weapon. It disarms your enemy without a single blow. Imagine someone who seeks to tarnish your reputation. What happens when you respond with unwavering integrity? Their slander crumbles under the weight of your character. Virtue exposes the smallness of those who act without it. But more importantly, it liberates you. It ensures that no matter how others act, you remain true to yourself. Your enemy may seek to drag you into the mud, but by choosing virtue, you refuse to descend. In the end, a life rooted in virtue is untouchable. It is a fortress no enemy can breach. And as you continue to grow in wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control, you destroy not just the enemy before you, but the very concept of enmity itself. 5. Starve their influence through indifference. The fifth way to destroy your enemy is by refusing to give them attention. Enemies thrive when they occupy space in your mind, dictating your thoughts and actions. But when you deny them this space, when you treat them as irrelevant, they lose their grip on you entirely. Epictetus advised, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By choosing indifference, you rob your enemy of the satisfaction of your reaction. Silence becomes louder than words, and detachment more powerful than confrontation. Think of your enemy like a fire. Every emotional outburst, every moment spent dwelling on their actions, is fuel for their flame. But if you starve that fire, it dies. You remain untouched, standing firm while their efforts fade into irrelevance. This indifference is not weakness. It is the strength of a mind so disciplined that no external force can disturb its peace. 6. Outlast them with time and patience. The sixth way to destroy your enemy is through the silent, unstoppable force of time. The Stoics believed that nothing is permanent, not even the power or malice of an enemy. Marcus Aurelius observed, "Time is like a river of passing events, and its current is strong. No sooner does something appear than it is carried away, and another takes its place. Patience is your ally. When you refuse to act out of haste or frustration, you allow time to work in your favor. Many enemies are consumed by their own flaws. Their anger turns inward, their schemes unravel, and their strength fades. By standing firm and letting time reveal the truth, you outlast them. Your calm persistence becomes an unshakable wall against which their efforts crumble. Think of a mountain standing against the wind. The wind howls and rages, but the mountain does not fight back. It simply endures. Over time, the wind dissipates, but the mountain remains. That is the power of patience, to outlast what cannot be overcome through force. 7. Win them over with understanding. The seventh way to destroy your enemy is through empathy. It is said that hatred is born of ignorance, and often our enemies act out of their own suffering or misunderstanding. By seeking to understand their perspective, you dissolve the very foundation of their hostility. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I'm about to criticize?" This exercise in humility allows us to see our enemies not as adversaries, but as flawed humans, just like ourselves. When you extend compassion instead of retaliation, you create the possibility of turning an enemy into an ally. Even if they reject your understanding, you rob them of the satisfaction of hatred. The strength to rise above animosity and offer peace is a power that few possess, and it dismantles your enemy's intent without a single blow. The eighth way to destroy your enemy is by focusing so intently on your own purpose that their efforts become insignificant. An enemy only holds power if you allow them to distract you from your path. When you stay committed to your higher goals, you make their attacks meaningless. Seneca reminds us, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Wasting time on conflict with enemies is one of life's greatest distractions. Instead, channel every ounce of energy into your mission, your growth, and your values. Imagine a river carving its way through a valley. It doesn't stop for rocks or debris. It flows around them, slowly wearing them down over time. Your purpose is that river. Let your enemy be the rocks, fixed in place, while you move forward, unstoppable. By devoting yourself to your purpose, you reduce your enemy to a mere obstacle in the landscape of your life. Their actions no longer matter, because your eyes are set on the horizon. 9. Destroy their power by forgiving them. The 9th way to destroy your enemy is through the act of forgiveness. To forgive is not to condone their actions, but to free yourself from the burden of resentment. Hatred binds you to your enemy, but forgiveness severs that chain, leaving you unshackled and at peace. Seneca wrote, "How much better to heal than seek revenge from injury. Vengeance wastes our time and exposes us to many more injuries than the first that sparked it." Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the ultimate assertion of inner strength. It denies your enemy the satisfaction of knowing they still occupy your thoughts. To forgive is to say, "You no longer have power over me." Your enemy becomes powerless when you refuse to let their actions define you. Forgiveness is liberation, a triumph of the soul over petty grievances. The 10th way to destroy your enemy is to live in such a way that their hostility becomes a reflection of their own failure. By embodying wisdom, virtue, and self-control, you become a mirror that forces them to confront their flaws. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not be like them." When your actions are rooted in integrity, when your life becomes a model of excellence, your enemy's attempts to harm you will only reveal their own inadequacies. Consider this. A person who spreads lies about you will ultimately be exposed if your truth shines brighter. A person who seeks to drag you down will find themselves diminished in the face of your unshakable composure. By rising above, you do not destroy your enemy directly. They destroy themselves through their own envy, bitterness, or dishonor. Your example becomes a force that leaves them defenseless, while elevating you to a place where their actions can no longer touch you. If this resonated with you, make sure to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message.